you, Mayor. I know I feel like I have to make a bit of a joke because it's normally the mayor who speaks first, and I have the opportunity today to speak to everybody, and it's absolutely a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and I want to say thank you for joining us. Bonjour à tous. Today, I am absolutely thrilled and pleased to introduce Rick Leary as the City of Ottawa's new General Manager of Transit Services. And Rick is right beside me here on my right. We did an extremely extensive internal and external recruitment process, and it was very clear that Rick offers an ideal combination of experience, leadership, and vision that's going to guide our transit system through the next chapter. Rick has extensive experience in overseeing integrated bus, light rail, subway, and streetcar systems with the responsibility for operations, maintenance, safety, and long-term asset management. And Rick has graciously stepped into this role today. As stated in the memo to Council, Rick brings more than 25 years of experience across the transit sector here in Canada and in North America. His leadership has focused on strengthening service reliability, supporting consistent customer experience, and aligning the day-to-day operations with longer-term infrastructure and investment priorities. He's worked extensively with performance data and operational metrics to inform service planning and support the day-to-day decision-making. Rick has held a number of executive positions for major transit organizations, including the Massachusetts Bay Authority, York Region Transit, as well as most recently serving as Chief Executive Officer of the Toronto Transit Commission. And as CEO of the TTC, Rick has led one of North America's largest bus and rail networks, balancing the demands of the daily service delivery with capital renewal, system modernization, rail extension initiatives. And his experience includes managing aging infrastructure, supporting the integration of new and expanding services, and ensuring the successful delivery of capital projects. And he truly brings that comprehensive understanding of what it takes to run a very complex transit system. And this breadth of experience, paired with Rick's pragmatic, collaborative, and people-focused leadership style, positions him exceptionally well to lead our transit services team. Now, Rick has 4 priorities laid out for his first order of business. And the first thing I've asked him to do immediately is to assess the current rail situation, including the ongoing disruptions, and develop a very viable plan to restore full service. And I've made it very clear that our customers deserve better, and delivering that has to be our top priority. And moving forward, there's 4 clear focuses that Rick is going to focus on in terms of priorities. And again, that's restoring that service, full service on Line 1, and improving bus and rail service availability overall. Advancing our multimodal system, and that's our transit network with the successful launch of the East and the West lines that are come over the next, I'm going to say this year and next year. Reestablishing customer and ridership confidence in transit service as well as OC Transpo, and ensuring strong financial management of the organization. And I am very confident under Rick's leadership, which is going to be supported by our entire transit services leadership team, that we are positioned well to deliver on these priorities in the future. So welcome, Rick, to the City of Ottawa. We are very pleased that you are here with us. And I'm going to invite Mayor Sutcliffe to also share a few remarks. Over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Merci, Wendy. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today to welcome Rick Leary to the City of Ottawa and as the new General Manager of OC Transpo. I want to take a moment to recognize the outstanding work and incredible dedication of our interim General Manager, Troy Charter, over the last 9 months. When René Amilcar departed from OC Transpo last July, Troy stepped in quickly and immediately rose to the challenge. He's done a terrific job under, at times, some very difficult circumstances. He's poured his heart and soul into this work, and we are very grateful. Merci, Troy, pour votre travail et votre dévouement au cours des derniers mois. I also want to acknowledge that the last few months have been incredibly difficult for OC Transpo passengers. The spalling issues that were detected on our Line 1 fleet earlier this year reduced the number of trains available to serve our passengers, and that means we've had to run single trains instead of double trains on Line 1, and that has been a source of frustration for our customers. We've also had issues with our bus fleet. We've had an aging fleet of diesel buses. That has led to reliability issues that have left too many passengers waiting in the cold. This is absolutely not the level of service that we want to offer to our residents. Ce n'est pas le niveau de service que nous voulons offrir à nos résidents, et nous devons faire mieux. We must improve our bus service. We must fix and improve our rail service. I'm thankful that there is hope on the horizon. Earlier this month, we had only 30 of our new electric buses on the road. Yesterday, we had more than 50. And that number will continue to rise in the coming weeks and months as we get more electric buses delivered to us. As these new buses are deployed, this will permanently address our bus reliability issues. But of course, we still have a lot of work to do on LRT. Nous avons beaucoup de travail à faire pour regagner la confiance de nos usagers du transport en commun. So that's why we need strong, experienced leadership at OC Transpo right now, and why I'm delighted that we've been able to recruit Rick to join us in Ottawa. As Wendy stated, Rick's leadership skills and experience make him the perfect candidate to take the reins of OC Transpo at this critical time. This is someone who knows what it's like to run a transit service with buses and trains in a big city. During his 7 years as CEO of the Toronto Transit Commission, Rick led one of North America's largest transit agencies. Just to give you an order of magnitude, the TTC is about 6 times the size of OC Transpo. Rick began his career as a transit operator in Boston, where he was a member of the Transit Workers Union. He knows what it's like to be on the front lines of a transit system, helping passengers every day. That's incredibly valuable experience. And I want to say our bus and train operators work very hard, day in and day out, to make sure our residents get to their destinations safely. We're very grateful to them, and nobody knows that role better than Rick. Rick a travaillé sur le terrain comme opérateur pendant plusieurs années. Il sait ce que ça prend pour offrir un service de qualité à nos résidents. As Wendy mentioned, Rick's first order of business is to do a full and comprehensive review of the recent issues that we've been having on Line 1. Those briefings have already started, but in fairness to Rick, he won't be able to comment on that issue today. Rick is getting to work immediately on the spalling issue and the disruptions in service, and he will bring a fresh and experienced perspective to the situation. And once he has done a full assessment, he will recommend the best path forward to restoring full service on Line 1. Now, as I mentioned, Rick is originally from Boston, and you're going to hear that in his voice in a few seconds. But I want to point out that Rick has chosen to live in Canada for many years, and he is a proud Canadian citizen. And today, it's my honor to welcome Rick as the newest resident of Ottawa. I'll now let him say a few words. Please welcome our new General Manager of Transit, Rick Leary.
Rick, thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Rick Leary. I'm the new General Manager of Transit Services. It's wonderful to be here. I'd like to start out by saying thanks to both the Mayor and City Manager for their kind introduction. I'd let you know that I am honored to step into this role as General Manager of Transit Services, and I want to start by saying how grateful I am for the trust that has been placed in me. I've spent more than 25 years leading transit systems across Canada and North America, and throughout my career, my focus has always been the same: delivering safe, reliable service and creating a positive environment or experience for our riders. And that remains my #1 priority here in Ottawa. I also recognize the urgency of the moment. Riders are counting on us, not months from now and not years from now, but today. They need a transit system that they can depend on, whether they're commuting to work, getting to school, or moving around our city. Now, as a regular transit user myself, I understand those expectations, and I take them very seriously. Now, as Wendy mentioned, I began my assessment this morning of the current rail situation, including the ongoing disruptions, and I'll be developing a clear plan to restore full service. Now, while this will take some time, I will inform council and the public once that assessment is complete and outline a plan to move forward. I'm fully focused on the task at hand, that is restoring Line 1 to full service, ensuring a successful launch of the East End extension, and reestablishing bus reliability. I have important work ahead of us, and I'm confident of our ability to move the system together. I know I'm joining a real talented team. I had the great opportunity of meeting many of them this morning, and I saw that firsthand. So alongside the commitment of our partners and a shared determination to improve the reliability, strengthen service, and rebuild trust in our customers. Now, my role is actually to support and to listen closely and to be transparent and to act decisively when change is needed. And I'll tell you that I'm here because I believe in this city, in the system, and the people that run this service. Now, as you get to know me, one thing will be clear, and for those of you who have Googled me, you've heard about my passion. I'm a passionate person who really wants to see actions for our customers. Now, at times, I will admit that it comes across a little bit strong, the Bostonian in me originally, but I will tell you that it's always coming from a place of a genuine place. So I'm ready to take on this responsibility. I'm excited to continue building transit, the network here in Ottawa, and making our residents proud. So thank you very much for having me here today. Appreciate it.
I'll just mention that Chair Gower is here as well, obviously. I forgot to mention that in my opening remarks. And great to have you here, Glenn, and some of my colleagues from council as well.
We'll now begin today's media availability. Nous allons maintenant commencer le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. I will now invite each agency in alphabetical order to ask their questions. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions des médias qui pourront poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll start with Joe Tunney at CBC Ottawa.
Hi there. I want to ask the mayor a quick question about the provincial budget that just came out.
Sure.
I know that, it's long been said that the conversations around uploading the LRT are ongoing, they're complex. That hasn't changed. I'm just wondering, were you surprised not to see any mention of it at all in the provincial budget? What were you expecting going in?
I was not expecting to see any mention of the upload in the Ontario budget. We are in constant communication with the provincial government on a number of different files, including the upload. We are working with them all year round. I know that, from the public and the media's perspective, the budget is this sort of signature moment when a bunch of things get announced, but there are announcements and agreements that are reached every single day of the year throughout the province of Ontario, and we're working, it's not like Christmas morning where we're waiting all year and find out what presents we got when we wake up. We're working with the province all year round. We're advancing our conversations on the upload, and the next step in the process is not to see something in the budget. It's to continue the work that we have been doing on due diligence, on reaching a final agreement, and we're continuing to do that. So it was not a surprise. We were not expecting anything to be there. Oui. Alors, nous nous attendions rien dans le budget au sujet de le transfert du train léger. Ce n'était pas quelque chose que nous avons anticipé parce que nous parlons chaque jour avec le gouvernement provincial aux plusieurs sujets, incluant le transfert du LRT. Alors, nous continuons les conversations, les négociations se poursuivent et j'espère qu'à l'avenir proche, il y aura plus de détails, mais nous continuons à négocier avec le gouvernement provincial.
I know we do want to ask about the new head of OC Transpo, but I do have one more question, which is that there was this report out of FinCor. We're talking about the local GDP. It's only expected to rise about 1.4% in the next year, and that follows a 1% from last year in 2025. If you look at that, that's kind of a local recession. Can I get your comments a little bit about the state of the Ottawa economy and what's to come for this city?
It's a tough time for Ottawa's economy. We're facing a lot of pressures from events around the world, from the trade and tariff battles that we're having with our closest neighbor, and we're facing the threat of public sector job reductions in the federal public service. It's a very difficult time. That's why we've been working hard to strengthen and diversify our local economy and create more private sector jobs. As you know, Invest Ottawa has been leading our defense innovation strategy. We're working with Ottawa Tourism on bringing more events and tourists to Ottawa. That's been very successful recently. We're supporting small business. We're doing everything we can to make it easier to do business in Ottawa. So there are lots of positive things happening with our economy, but there's no question we face very strong headwinds with everything that's happening in the world today. Many, many events that are beyond our control, including the decisions of the federal government, which I understand and respect, but which have an impact on our local economy. So we'll keep working with the other levels of government. We'll keep working with our partners in the private sector. We'll keep creating jobs and bringing more people to our city, and we'll find a way to grow our local economy.
Can we get that in French as well?
Sure. Alors, on sait qu'il y a plusieurs enjeux économiques auxquels nous faisons face maintenant. Le gouvernement fédéral est en train de réduire les employés et il y a plusieurs autres, il y a une guerre douanière et il y a plusieurs autres enjeux. Alors, nous travaillons en collaboration avec la ville de Gatineau, avec Investir Ottawa, avec la Chambre de commerce, avec les partenaires privés pour améliorer et diversifier notre économie locale, notre économie régionale. Nous travaillons dans le secteur de la défense, dans le secteur de l'haute technologie, dans le tourisme, pour créer des emplois, pour améliorer l'économie de notre région, et ce travail va continuer.
Merci, thank you. We'll now go to Arthur White-Crummey, CBC Radio.
Hi, this will be for the new general manager.
Please.
So I've had a bit of time to consult some of the reporting from Toronto about your departure from the TTC, and there was reporting in the Toronto Star that it came amid tensions with the board chair there and possibly some kind of investigation into what was described in the Toronto Star as a toxic workplace. So I was just hoping you could respond to that and explain to employees here and the board chair why we shouldn't expect a repeat of that in Ottawa.
Absolutely. So let me just start out by saying I had a wonderful estate career. It was 11 years at the TTC, and I spent the last almost 7 years as the CEO, and it was a fabulous career. I'd let you know that the chair and I had a good relationship. You don't always see eye to eye with people, but you have a good relationship and you talk through things. So I can tell you I left on good terms with the chair and the mayor of the city of Toronto. I'll tell you that I don't deny that there were some accusations. There was never any findings, right? When you're in a job that long, and they'll say it was a pressure cooker, right? But there were never any findings. And when I made a decision myself, and I said it at the time, I was, 61 years old and made the decision that what am I going to do for the next part of my life and career, and wanted to try another challenge, and here I am. So I'm very proud of my history in this business, and I think the mayor mentioned it. I started out as a blue-collar employee operating trains as a kid. I was in university, right? So my heart and soul goes out to the frontline employees and people that make a career in this business. I find public service very rewarding, and I think that the employees in this organization will see that and feel it from me. I intend to have some fun with them, to make a difference for the city.
Thank you. And for the city manager, just wondering if any of what I described came up during the recruitment process, whether it raised any concerns, and why you decided that it was still possible to go forward with the hiring.
Yeah, thanks, Arthur, for that question. And I have to say, as we moved through the process, it was very clear that Rick was the candidate that stood out to us in terms of the experience that he brings to the table, what he's done over his career. You know, he talked about the fact that he was a frontline driver. He was there on the ground, and he's moved through the ranks, and he brings the knowledge and the experience in terms of working in 3 different transit systems. And you look at Toronto, it's massive compared to Ottawa, right? It's like about 6 times the size. And I can tell you, in terms of the people that we reached out to, the references that we spoke to, you know, Rick was the person described as the smartest person you're ever going to meet and the most brilliant person in terms of helping us, in terms of where we're at here in the City of Ottawa with transit today. And he is committed to helping us and moving transit forward.
We'll now go to Natalie Van Roy, CTV Ottawa.
Good morning. This question is for the mayor. Similar to the previous question, Rick arrives as OC Transpo faces multiple issues with transit and that major $52 million deficit. Why did the city decide that he was the best choice for a hire when he also faced that criticism we just heard about in Toronto at the TTC, including a previous lawsuit?
Let's look at the situation we're in. We're facing a lot of challenges right now with public transit. It's a very difficult time for our passengers. I think there is hope that we'll be able to resolve a lot of these issues. We're getting more buses. We're working on solutions for Line 1, Line 2, and Line 4 are running very, very well, very effectively. The way I look at it is this. We had an opportunity to bring in a proven leader, somebody who has run a much, much larger transit service than the one we have here in Ottawa. Rick is not a rookie. He was the captain of a team that won the Stanley Cup. You know, we're bringing in somebody with lots of experience, somebody who knows what it takes to run a complex system, who's dealt with big challenges before, who has a great working relationship with the provincial government and Metrolinx. We're really lucky that somebody like Rick has chosen to move to Ottawa and to take on this significant challenge, that somebody with that kind of experience. We're not bringing somebody up from the minor leagues here who's worked on a smaller transit system in another, you know, in a smaller municipality somewhere. He did it, he played in the big leagues, and he was a winner in the big leagues. So we're lucky to have somebody of his caliber running our transit system.
Thank you. And my second question is for Rick.
Okay.
Yes. Hello, welcome to Ottawa.
Thank you.
What will be your first way of dealing with this deficit, this $52 million deficit that OC Transpo faces?
Like I say, I have to dive into it a little bit myself. You know, I don't know if I want to look at Wendy in this case to jump in on me and maybe save me, but you know, I got to take a look at it, right? My job is in this role to make sure that the government understands the importance of public transit and the funding of public transit. You know, the mayor said I have good relationships with the province. I've spent a lot of time over the last 11 or 12 years educating the province and the federal government in the support that public transit needs. So I'll continue to do that while I work with the city manager and the mayor's office on the funding.
Thank you. On va maintenant à Sébastien Pierrose, Le Droit.
Hello, Rick. Welcome to Ottawa. I have a question. So many people say trust in the transit system is broken, and especially in the east of Ottawa. How do you plan to rebuild this trust?
So when I look at it, I don't look at it as being broken. I look at it as it's kind of in a phase or it's being staged, okay? I see a lot of positive ahead. That's what drove me to want to come here, right, with the new buses coming in. We know we can improve the reliability of the fleet. Old buses just don't work, and we know that. You know, we have our challenges with the LRTs, but this isn't something that I haven't seen before, whether it was in Boston or Toronto, right? So I know as I start to project what we can do, right, we can really improve the service by getting more vehicles out there and making them more reliable. And in turn, the customers become more familiar with it, more confident in it, and they'll start coming back and riding it at a greater interval.
Thank you. And second question, how would you describe your French, and are you able to communicate with the medias and public in French?
So I do not speak French at this time, but what I have done is I have committed, and I look forward to it, to taking French classes so that I will have the opportunity in the future.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Merci. We'll now go to Natasha Baldwin, Ottawa Citizen.
Hello, my question is for Rick. So there's been lots of discussions and negotiations, as we talked about uploading the LRT up to Metrolinx. So I'm wondering what your relationships are with Metrolinx and kind of how you worked with them in Toronto with the TTC.
So I have a very good relationship. The CEO of Metrolinx and I consider him a friend. And we get together. I've helped him out over the years. He actually helped me out over the years as well when I was in Toronto. So I think those relationships are key when you talk about how you're going to move forward. I will be assisting the mayor and his team, obviously, when it comes to the upload, because I know that's where it sits. But those relationships are key in making sure we help one another. As a matter of fact, with some of the issues more recently on the rail system, Michael Lindsay and Metrolinx offered to come and help, right? So those are the things that are key. We're a big we when it comes to this transit system in Ontario. We're all friends.
Mm-hmm. And that potential upload has kind of drawn a little bit of controversy with critics in Ottawa, but is that something you still have the appetite to pursue in Ottawa with uploading the LRT up to the province?
I think those are the discussions that the province is having, and we'll certainly be at the table, Mayor. When any assistance that he needs, I'll be there for him.
Thank you. We'll go to Joanne Lashus, Ottawa Sun.
Hi, this is a question for Mr. Leary. You mentioned that you got a chance to use Ottawa's transit system. I don't know if you're in Ottawa often. Can you tell us a little bit about how you used it, when you used it, and what your initial impressions were of our transit system?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to ride Line 1. I really enjoyed it. Wherever I go, whatever city I go to, I take the time and make sure I just go ride in the system. It's something I've done for years. I found it very clean, very reliable. I like the smooth transition of the vehicles. I got off at a couple of stations. I walked around the stations. I'm impressed. And obviously, it's the winter time and there's a little salt around it, but I was very impressed. When I look around, I start seeing, do we have issues with, let's say, graffiti or anything like that? So, I enjoyed it. It's what I do. Went line end to end, for a few hours, just having fun riding transit. If that's fun for both people, I enjoy it.
So how long was your visit here to use the transit, and can you tell us a little bit more about how you went about, basically doing your overview of the transit system?
I spent a lot of time online just looking at OC Transpo. I'll say I was friends with previous CEOs, so I have had discussions over the years with CEOs from OC Transpo as well, right? So you get familiar with it. And it was the day that I came out a few weeks ago and just like to go for a ride and do what I do. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. On va à Frédéric Papin, Radio-Canada.
Mr. Leary, hi.
Hi.
So what kind of user are you? Are you a car driver? Do you still own that F-150 of yours? Or are you a guy that is going to use Ottawa public transit?
My intent is to move to the city and use the transit system in the city. Yes, I do have an F-150. Yes, I have a truck, and I used to when my family was a little bit younger. We used to have a camper, which we don't have anymore. So there was a value for having a truck to pull a camper around for family events.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to ask a question to the mayor. Maintenant, Monsieur le maire, vous faites confiance à Monsieur Leary? Vous pensez que on a entendu un peu son passé, il y a des questions par rapport à son passé, il a très bien répondu à la question, là, mais vous, est-ce que vous lui faites confiance? Il y a aussi eu un départ de Boston qui est arrivé dans des conséquences où il y avait des problèmes là-bas avec le subway. Vous pensez que c'est l'homme de la situation?
Absolument, tout à fait, parce que regardons son expérience. Ce n'est pas un débutant dans le transport en commun, c'est quelqu'un avec plusieurs décennies d'expérience. C'est comme en termes de hockey, ce n'est pas un débutant, c'est un vétéran, c'est quelqu'un qui était le capitaine d'une équipe qui a gagné plusieurs fois. Alors d'avoir quelqu'un comme ça qui a beaucoup d'expérience à donner à notre système, les enjeux auxquels nous faisons face, c'est les enjeux que Rick a réglés depuis plusieurs années. Alors, c'est quelqu'un qui va donner beaucoup à notre système de transport en commun et j'ai beaucoup de confiance en Rick.
Merci.
Merci à vous.
Thank you. We have time for a couple more questions. Is there anyone? Okay, we'll go back to Arthur White-Crummy, CBC. Thanks.
Again, for the new general manager, we heard that your first order of business is going to be developing a plan for the LRT spalling issues. But of course, we're also having this bus reliability crisis, and there is a plan in place to deal with that, essentially waiting for these new e-buses to come in. And I'm wondering if you think that's going to work. Are you satisfied with the plan that exists right now, or do you also want to look at that again and maybe reconsider a different, fresh approach to improving bus bus reliability in the city?
So I would start out by saying that I think the new ZEBs, the electric buses coming in, is going to help tremendously. But what I have had, the conversations I've had with the city manager are, I would like to have an assessment of the existing fleet, because what I'm about state of good repair, continuing to maintain the existing fleet so it never falls in disarray, right, and long-term planning. So I'll be taking a peek at that, so that for long-term, we know what the necessary funding is to take care of the fleet that we have, so it either gets replaced or maintained in a proper state. Thank you.
Thank you. On va à Frédéric Papin, Radio-Canada.
Mr. Leary, I'm going to ask you also a question, on technical issues with the LRT. Can you tell us what's your experience with LRT vehicles that would be similar to this one? Because in Toronto, it's also a new technology that is being deployed there. Here, we're seeing that it was a model made for Ottawa, and we're still waiting to know if that's an issue with the wheels. Is it causing the issue? So what's your experience with that type of vehicle?
Okay, so I'll tell you that in three of the properties, this being the third, all vehicles are designed for that system. I had it in Boston as well and in Toronto. And each vehicle has I'm going to say a little nuance to it as they come through with it, through the system. Okay, so in Boston I had wheel-rail interfaces, right? We had some reliability in Toronto as well. And here, what I see is I see us working with the partnership with the subs and the contractor, Alstrom. All right, we're going to get through this. We're going to put the vehicles back in. We're going to work and put a plan together so that we can get all the vehicles necessary to provide the service. It's not any different here than it is in other major systems around North America. My friends in Chicago and New York and Philadelphia all have challenges with new fleets, right? And things happen. There's little nuances. We'll get through it, right? And we're going to message as we get through it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll go to Joanne Lashes, Ottawa Sun.
I think it's probably the mayor or maybe the city manager who might be able to answer this question. It's been about 8 months since Madame Amilcar announced that she was going to leave. Can you tell me why this process to hire took so long, given the fact that your ultimate decision was, 4 hours down the road?
Well, I don't know if you've ever been through a hiring process before, but it takes time, and the objective is not to fill the position in a couple of weeks. It's to find the absolute best person for the job. And I judge the process not on how long it takes, but on the candidate that ends up accepting the job. And in this case, I see it as a successful process because we found the absolute best person to take on the challenges that we have at this time. The other thing I'll say is I have a lot of confidence in the team at OC Transpo that Troy Charter did a tremendous job on an interim basis. We never felt like we were impatiently awaiting the new general manager to take over. There was a lot of strength on the team there. They were able to carry the ball on an interim basis. So that gave us the opportunity to do a proper search, do the due diligence required, and find the absolute best candidate. Sometimes that takes time. I've been in situations where that takes much longer than 8 months. In this case, it took 8 months, and we got the best candidate for the job, and I couldn't be happier.
Next is Joe Tunney, CBC Ottawa.
Hi there. I have something lighter in tone, but a colleague did ask me to ask it if there was time. You had a recent little viral moment on Twitter with your hello to Ottawa.
That's what brought Rick to Ottawa.
I was wondering that.
Once Rick saw that photo, he's like, I got to live in this city. This is where I want to be.
This is the place.
Yep. So it's, yep.
Were you expecting to go viral? What was the
that closed the deal. That closed the deal. That's what got us Rick Leary as the new general manager. Yep.
Were you expecting to go viral?
No, look, I never expect any of the little snapshots I take every morning to go viral. It's hilarious that it did. I think it's very funny. Some of the comments were very, very funny. I get it. I take pictures every morning. Some mornings it's a beautiful morning. Some mornings there's a lot of scenery. Some mornings it's gray and slushy. I'm just taking a picture of what I see when I'm out on my morning run. When you're out on a morning run in late March in an extended winter, there's no sunshine and tulips. So right. I just take what I see on my run.
Was there something about that field and that desolate Christmas tree on its side that, that spoke to you?
Well, what spoke to me is I have been dying for it to be spring. I've been dying for the snow to melt. I've been, impatiently waiting to go outside and run in shorts. And so when I saw all that melting going on, to the extent that I gave it any thought at all. I thought, look, here's a sign that spring is coming because, you know, things are melting. So I had taken pictures before of that outdoor rink in the middle of winter, and I just thought, here it is in the state of transition from winter to spring, and, you know, let's get it out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Last up, we have Natalie Van Roy at CTV Ottawa.
Hello, this question is for the mayor. There have been rumblings about shutting down Line 1 for maintenance. Is that something that transit users can expect in the coming days or weeks?
We know we've had some challenges with the spalling issues on Line 1, and of course, we have to have contingency plans in place that, you know, there's a limit of 100,000 kilometers on every vehicle. So if we reach a point sometime in the future where it's no longer possible to have enough vehicles in order to provide the service, we may have to look for a period of time at using R1, and we have to have those contingency plans in place. We plan for all kinds of different eventualities, and many of them never come to pass. As we said this morning, number one job for Rick as he takes on this role is to do a full assessment of the situation with Line 1 and make recommendations on the best way forward to restoring full service for our passengers, and that's what he's going to do.
Thank you. This is all the time that we have today. C'est tout le temps. Nous disposons aujourd'hui. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, everyone. Merci beaucoup.